Welcome to another monthly portfolio update. If you are stopping by for the first time, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. In this video, I will share with you how much I invested in my taxable account in October, how many shares I bought, and the value of my portfolio at the end of October. But as always, before I continue, a quick disclaimer. The information that I'm sharing is not financial advice. Before you invest in anything, please do your own research and make sure that you only invest in things that you understand. With that being said, I will dive right into my portfolio update. I will start with a quick recap of my September portfolio to show you the value of the portfolio and how many shares I had before the beginning of October. The total value of my portfolio at the end of September was $112,056.40. $111,851.70 was the market value of my investments, and $204.70 was the cash amount. At the end of September, the total unrealized profit of my portfolio was $36,358.84. This was plus of 48.16%. These are my holdings: 2 Vanguard ETFs and 2 BlackRock ETFs. VCN is a Vanguard ETF that tracks the Canadian market. I had 110 shares of VCN at the end of September. VFV is a Vanguard ETF that tracks the S&P 500 index. This is the Canadian version of a VOO. I had 350 shares of a VFV at the end of September. XEQT is a BlackRock ETF. This is an all-in-one equity ETF which holds Canadian equities, US equities, developed market equities outside of North America, and the emerging market equities. If you want to hold a single equity ETF which is globally diversified, you might consider looking into XEQT or its Vanguard equivalent, VEQT. I had 620 shares of XEQT at the end of September. XUU is a BlackRock ETF that tracks the US total stock market, and I had 340 shares of XUU at the end of September. I will now show you how much I invested in October and how many shares I bought. I bought 2 shares of VCN. The cost per share was $60.97. The total cost, $121.94. This is 7% of the amount that I invested in October. I bought 5 shares of VFV. The cost per share was $164.42. The total cost, $822.11. This is 49% of the amount that I invested in October. I bought 10 shares of XEQT. The cost per share was $39.02. The total cost, $390.19. This is 23% of the amount that I invested in October. I bought 5 shares of XUU. The cost per share was $67.95. The total cost, $339.73. And this is 20% of the amount that I invested in October. In total, I bought 22 shares, all the ETFs combined, and the amount that I invested in October was $1,673.97. This is $64.54 more than the amount that I invested in September. As you can see, in September, I invested $1,609.43, and in October, I invested $1,673.97. The difference is plus $64.54. The total value of my portfolio at the end of October was $116,715.46. $116,714.13 was the market value of my investments, and $1.33 was the cash amount. At the end of October, the total unrealized profit of my portfolio was $39,547.30. This was plus 51.25%. As of October the 31st, I had 112 shares of a VCN, 355 shares of a VFV, 630 shares of XEQT, and 345 shares of XUU. Alright, let's now take a look at some quick details about each of the positions. I will start with a VCN. The closing market price on October the 31st was $61.74. The quantity of shares that I had, 112. The average price, $42.05. The book value, which is how much I have invested in VCN, was $4,709.74. The market value was $6,914.88. This was 5.92% of my portfolio. The total unrealized profit for VCN was $2,205.14. This was 46.82%. Next, we have VFV. The closing market price on October 31st was $170.28. The quantity of shares that I had, 355. The average price, $109.12. The book value was $38,739.24. The market value was $60,449.40. This was 51.79% of my portfolio. The total unrealized profit for VFV was $21,710.16. This was a 56.04%. Then we have XEQT. The closing market price on October the 31st was $39.83. The quantity of shares that I had, 630. The average price, $27.95. The book value was $17,610.81. The market value was $25,092.90. This was 21.50% of my portfolio. The total unrealized profit for XEQT was $7,482.09. This was 42.49%. Finally, we have XUU. The closing market price on October 31st was $70.31. The quantity of shares that I had, 345. The average price, $46.68. The book value was $16,107.04. The market value was $24,256.95. This was 20.78% of my portfolio. The total unrealized profit for XUU was $8,149.91. This was 50.60%. Stocks continued to rise in October. My portfolio went from being up 48.16% at the beginning of the month to 51.25% at the end of the month. This is an increase of 3.09%, and the amount that I invested in October was $1,673.97. As for the S&P 500 index, it returned 2.27% in October, bringing its year-to-date performance to 16.30%, which is quite impressive given the current US government shutdown and all the volatility related to tariffs that we saw earlier in the year. October has historically been a month where stock market volatility rises. This month has a special place in finance. You may have heard of the October effect, which is a widespread belief that financial declines and stock market crashes are more likely to occur in October than any other month. Here are a few examples of severe stock market crashes that occurred in October. The bank panic of 1907, which was marked by a financial panic with multiple bank runs and heavy panic selling at the stock exchange. The stock market crash of 1929, which began on October the 24th and was one of the main causes of the Great Depression in the 1930s. The stock market crash of October the 19th, 1987, a day known as Black Monday, which saw the Dow Jones drop 22.60% in a single trading session, a loss that remains the largest one-day stock market decline. Despite all these crashes, October has historically been a strong month for stocks, with the S&P 500 index returning an average of 1.4% over the last 35 years. And this year's October return of 2.27% is even above the average monthly return of 1.4% for October. This is just to show that if you are a long-term investor, you don't need to worry about a potential stock market decline. Keep dollar cost averaging on your favorite index funds or ETFs and stay the course. If or when there's a stock market decline, see it as an opportunity to buy stocks at a discount. Alright, feel free to leave a comment below. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time with another update. Peace out.